joining me here this evening. Today I've got another book review prepared for you all, and I'm super excited to talk about this book. It's one that I really enjoyed, to the extent that I think it's probably the book I recommend most right now. So I hope you're all ready for a new book review and you've got yourself a nice cup of tea, some relaxing maybe treats or a blanket or some pajamas, things that will make you feel nice and calm while we talk over this book. So, a small confession of mine, I don't often have the physical copies of the books that I'm reviewing. The book that I want to review today, this is the Kindle version of The Serpent and the Wings of Night. The title is actually, it sounds very dumb, but I actually really struggle to read the order of the title. It's not one of my strong suits. The second book, which I want to show you right now as well, has a similar problem. It's going to come up to where I was. It's a similar issue where I just really struggle to read it. So The Ashes and The Star-Cursed King. But I don't know if anyone else has this problem. Maybe it's just me. But this book, it really caught me by surprise. I'm so fussy with picking up new books, and I'm sure that I've said it on this channel before, but if a book doesn't entice me within maybe the first, give it 3 chapters, usually the sample on the Kindle. If it hasn't won me over, I won't buy it. Sometimes I also lose attention later into the book when I've already bought it. But I won't ever review books on this channel that I can finish, just because I don't want to recommend those to someone else. So it was a rare opportunity that this one caught my attention straight away. I think the opening was just really captivating. It's, I'm not going to say unique because I grew up reading Twilight and House of Night, all those sorts of vampire stories. If everyone remembers when Team Edward and Team Jacob were all a thing, I grew up with that, so I wouldn't say it was unique, but I liked how it had a more modern YA feel to the vampire backdrop, and it was wonderful. A funny story I have about this author, actually, Carissa Broadbent. So if I scroll through my Kindle library, you can get a little peek here at all the things I'm trying to read. If I scroll through, there is another book by her that I was trying desperately to read, and I got to the end of the sample and it just was not doing it for me. This is the cover. It's called A Daughter of No World, and I've heard that it's a really good book. A friend at work recommended it to me to read, who often reads the same kind of YA books as me, and I took her up on it. I thought I'd give it a read, and just wasn't happening. Completely unrelated, I started reading the other book, not realising it was the same author. It doesn't even feel like the same author, and I was so excited when I got to the end of the book and read about her other works, and it was this one. So although I felt bad that my friend at work kept telling me to read this and it just wasn't working out for me, I was so happy that I ended up reading another work by the author, so we could talk in the end about her works. So I'm going to give a little summary of the book with no spoilers, and then same as usual, if you don't want spoilers, or yeah, if you don't want spoilers, please turn off. But again, I'm starting to wonder how much my book summaries do give away spoilers. I think I say a lot of opinions, but I don't think I'm that good at summarizing books. I think I get a bit lost in what I'm saying. So yeah, we'll see. So first of all, our main character, Raya, she is a human who has grown up in a world of vampires, which I haven't read before. I found it very refreshing. Everything I used to read as a kid was often about human girls falling in love with vampires, but it was really nice to have a human that's kind of growing up in this world being treated as a vampire. She is picked off the streets by the king of the vampires. His name is Vincent, and he was my favourite character, and I must have a problem to find the evil vampire king my favourite character, but there was something very charismatic about this man, and yeah, he was portrayed as a kind of cool but slightly problematic father figure, and I really liked that dynamic. So he picks her off the street, this young human girl. It's kind of explained that not really anyone knows just why he picked her up off the streets, that maybe he saw a bit of himself in her, and he calls her his little serpent because she's quite vicious for a human. I think she, as a young human girl, bites his hand the first time he tries to help her, so he calls her little serpent, which is cute, I guess. And so we follow Raya as she's kind of grown up in this world that's designed to eat people like herself. She has a human friend who is basically a blood donor. She is allowed in the palace, but that's because she provides her blood as kind of service to the vampires. But Araya doesn't get any of that. That we know at the start, she's just living in the palace with Vincent, but she is doing one thing, which is preparing for these big ass vampire games. I believe it was called the Kejari in the books, but there's these sort of vampire trials, very Darren Shan vampire. The name is lost on me. Darren Shan series about vampires, where the sort of the trials. It reminded me of that a lot. But she has to, if she completes all these multiple trials, she can gain a wish from the vampire goddess Nixia. And so she wants to compete in these trials. She's been training for it practically her whole life, and if she wins, she'll get that wish, and she's gonna wish to become Vincent's kind of protege, so she'll get the vampire abilities that she wants and needs, and help him to rule. So yeah, that's kind of the overarching story, is just her competing in these trials, the love interest being introduced, Rain, who's an interesting character as well. So yeah, and from here on I'm going to add in a bit of my own opinions. So if you don't want spoilers, please turn off now. Thank you. Right, so where to start? I loved this book so much so that I was just so surprised by it. I would never say anything, so I'd never call anything a perfect book, but a book can be perfect for me in that all these things I want in a book: to have a good time, not a perfect piece of prose or literature, just a book that is perfectly what I want, which is hard to put in words, but it's some sort of mixture of romance and fantasy and good plots, interesting, kind of unique powers, proper magic system, like all these little things that I just want mixed up. And sometimes not all of those have to be there. I mean, I loved ACOTAR, and I still don't know why I loved it as much as I did. And that didn't have the most developed magic system, whereas some of Brandon Sanderson's books, like the Mistborn series, that's a really developed magic system, and yet I loved the book, but I didn't find it as fun. I think I think something about it felt like heavier for me reading it, and that's just something, I guess, it's my problem. But yeah, this one was just exactly what I wanted from it, kind of like ACOTAR, just very light, it felt like light reading, but it still had some depth to it. And I just really recommend this book if anyone likes ACOTAR. It was so good. Everything felt like it happened at the right time. The plot was so strong, where there were these constant trials for these Araya and the vampires to be participating in, that it kept moving. There was always something happening to move forward, which I think was really good in a book, because even between these trials you're developing the characters and each one is testing their relationships further. I thought it was very believable the way the love story was portrayed. For once, I can be quite grumpy about how suddenly I'm reading like the second book in a series and so's fall in love with a different person now. But this one was, I don't know, the love story felt very gradual, very natural. I do think the book might have, I don't know because I get them on Kindle, but the book maybe was a bit longer than, say, I think the second book of Guild, the book story about Midas, the retelling, well, the girl that is got touched by Midas, the second book of that, she managed to fall in love with a general, and it just felt too quick. But that was also a whole book. But again, that was on my Kindle, so maybe the lengths of these books are very different, but the fact that it's still in one book, the love story was just portrayed really well. I really enjoyed that. I found myself really liking the male love interest, Rain, as a character. He didn't annoy me for once. He was still like, there were some bits for us just a bit like ugh, but because yeah, there's certain things in YA with the love interests where, I don't know, they have to write them in a certain way to keep everyone swooning, I guess, but sometimes that means they're a bit like, I don't know, aggressive, But yeah. But I really liked it. I liked the dynamic that Rain was used to be human, so that explained a lot of why he was kind of special and appealing to Oriya, whereas I think otherwise it would have felt a bit like, why is she so obsessed with this random vampire she barely knows. Like, it kind of explained the kind of feeling of why she would suddenly be interested in him. I liked the side characters. I can't for the life of me remember her name, but Rain's best friend, she was a really cute character, really interesting. I liked the whole background that she had been a priestess in a cult and then kind of had the powers, like wouldn't come to her in her time of need, but she'd been turned into a vampire by these, like, there was a lot of story outside the circle of the main characters, like building up this world that made it really fun to be in. It felt like the love story of these two main characters and Oriya's journey was taking place within this larger world, even though we weren't necessarily seeing it all the time. And it was really nice. The concept of these gods and goddesses, with the vampire goddess Nixia, and you've got these other gods. To the extent that I started to wonder maybe if there's vampire mythology that I don't know about. Like, it felt so like a Greek mythology when something's based on something that pre-exists. It felt very like it was just assumed the reader knew all these things, and I just really liked that way of storytelling. I liked that the trials followed Nixia's journey to become a vampire and leaving the other gods and stuff. It was very interesting that way. It just added a lot more fun and life and depth to these trials, and I just really liked the book. I don't have a single bad thing to say about it, except when the thing is, this book had me in a very weird state of grief, and honestly, if you haven't clicked off by now, I am going to reveal the end of the book. But Vincent, he was just, I really liked him as a character, because it's an issue that I really like the bad characters, because I really like the bad characters when they're done well, because it makes them so much more likable. Like, I really like Loki from Marvel, where it's like a character that's meant to be evil, but there's qualities that make you makes you relate to them slightly or think otherwise. And I think in introducing Vincent as a father figure, not a great one, but one that clearly did love his daughter, it makes you confused as a reader. It makes you unable to hate him as a villain, or a villain that might be a bit more 2D, like some random vampire king you don't know about, and made me so sad, and also shocked. But I appreciated that. I wanted that to happen in a way. It made me love the book even more that the ending just came out of nowhere. Like, one of the best plot twists I've read in a while. And I must say, my heart hurt. Like, my heart really hurt for Oriya, and I was really impressed that the author made me feel this way, and I just was not expecting it. I knew she was going to bring back Rain from the dead once she killed him, but I figured there was going to be some deal with Nixia to have them both live, or something a bit more cheesy. But I was very pleasantly surprised. The idea that Rain then goes and slaughters her father despite kind of being in love with her, knowing all of this. I loved it. I loved the plot twist. But good times come to an end. So I'll only mention it slightly in this video, because I wanted to make this a positive video where I'm just focusing on the first book, and all the positive parts of it, because this is a book that, while it's not a standalone and you'll want to know what happens next, I think it's a book that is worth reading, even though I absolutely hated the second book in the series. Hate is a strong word. I believe I hated it because it let me down so much. Maybe if I didn't have such strong feelings for this series, it would still be a good book out of context, but because the second book went on from such an amazing first one, it just made me really hate it. So I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't think it's... I think it will just make maybe... It kind of stops the conversation, doesn't it? Where the first one's so good and I'm telling people to read it, but then the second one's so bad. And maybe some of you only read the first and haven't started the second yet. But it's so bad. I had to look up on Goodreads because I thought I can't be the only one. And I was stopping like halfway. I gave the book a good chance. Halfway through I just I can't do this anymore. It was just brain numbing boredom. Boredom and irritation, and I did find a lot of reviews on Goodreads that kind of mirrored my exact feelings about the book, so I felt a bit better. But yes, the second book of this series, it goes in a very strange direction, to the extent that I tried to... I think I mentioned in my last video, when I get annoyed with books, I got so annoyed by this book that it made me open a memo on my phone and just logically think about what could have been written differently, because I felt that angry about how bad it was. Just to mention, so Rain becomes the new vampire king, Vincent's dead, Aurea is his prisoner in the castle palace. It's a great setup for the start of a second book. You've got this whole new dynamic, and Rain's actions at the end of the last book really need some consequences, even if he was a great love interest. But the second book, just from my understanding so far as well, it's just a continuation of... Aurea kind of is a prisoner the whole time. She does some half-assed actions to get her vampire faction back into power. Again, very half-assed because she's too busy being like horny for Rain. So there's a kind of side arc where they travel to see one of Vincent's existing relatives, and then she tries to kill Aurea kills her back. None of it was needed. Aurea gets some wings because now she's half vampire, but again, even that was stupid because I haven't read the end of the book, bear in mind, but why does she get to pick and choose things if she's got vampire wings? Why has she never had cravings for blood? It's all just a bit strange how it all works. And I don't know, it got me thinking about how I would have loved to have seen, maybe very early on, Aurea escaping the palace and going to live with that different faction of vampires, or travelling to meet them, and somehow along the way getting more character growth, whether that is a new love interest and it does a very ACOTAR turn where that new love interest teaches her how crap the old life and love interest was. Maybe it's her learning to use her powers out of the context of Rain, and just she developing as a badass protagonist. Rain, who I don't think deserves her love anymore. We get his point of view in this book, the second one, which I also don't agree with. And yeah, we understand he's a character, he has lots of different layers to him, and I feel like the issue was that the author probably really liked Rain as a character and couldn't let him go. But it would have been so much more interesting to see Aurea find someone else or just find herself, leave him and have these meetings between the two of them again at intervals where there is this like almost enemies dynamic. And that would have added so much more spice to the book, having it be like, wow, can these two ever make up? Will they make up? And there's this new guy involved now, or something like that. Like, it was just really crap, so I stopped halfway. And I know I said I wouldn't talk about it too much, but it makes me so angry when the first book was so good that I just can't quite believe that the next book could be so bad. But I really recommend everyone to give the first book a chance. I mean, I've already said there'll be spoilers, so I'm surprised if you're still watching, but it was just a really good book. It's weird, doing this video now is making me realise that the more I like a book and find it perfect, the less I have to say, because I honestly, with the second book, I have so much to rant about. But this first one I loved so much that I almost don't have much to say. It's just so good. I guess the powers, yeah, but even the powers were still interesting. The way she had this kind of night fire or something she could control. Rain had his own thing. His backstory was really interesting, a bit reminiscent of Reasoned. The idea that they're kind of, this person in power has abused them, and that is kind of their backstory before meeting the protagonist. Did have a lot of ACOTAR elements in there, but it didn't feel like a copy in any way, like some other books have felt like. And yeah, I literally don't know what else to say about it. Yeah, I hope this review has been interesting. I hope maybe some of you felt the same way as me about the series. I'll always try my best to recommend books here that I've really enjoyed, because I also struggle to find new ones to start. I'm reading currently at the pace of about maybe a book a week, but sometimes a bit faster, a bit slower, depends how engrossed I get in the series. But I'll try my best to keep updating you when I've got good books. I initially wanted to do kind of books of the month, like I see a lot on Book Talk, but sadly I feel that my habits as a reader of just dropping so many books, it just means there'll be a lot of me sitting here saying, this book I dropped it, this book I dropped it, this book I read, and I think it would be quite, I don't know, if you want to see that, please let me know down below. But I think I'm gonna end it there for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you all sleep well, and hopefully I can see you all here again soon. Thank you.